Well, welcome to the Super You podcast, Julie. I can't wait to hear all about your story because I'm glad that our audience is going to hear it here first because I do think they're going to make it into a Netflix movie. So I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. It's an unusual way for us to start the show, but your story is so compelling that I want our audience to know, like, how'd you become the CEO and how'd you grow this brand to $200 million in revenue? When you took it over, it was smaller and you've kind of grown it, and it wasn't easy when you kind of took over. So I'm going to kind of pause because our audience wants to hear from you the story, and then we'll go from there.
Well, thank you so much for having it. I love sharing the story. It's really fascinating. I can't believe I'm sitting here telling it. Uh, my parents and I were refugees from the former Soviet Union. When I was born at the height of the Cold War in Kiev, which is Ukraine now, my father was like just despised the idea of like communism, and he was constantly getting arrested for one thing or another by the KGB. And he really, he would listen to like a Beatles album and they would come and arrest him, and it was considered contraband. That really angered him, and that really was one of the reasons for why he wanted to leave. So when I was one, we defected. We were lived in exile in Rome for 3 months, and then came to Chicago. And we were the first of 48 families that were settled. We came with $116 in our pocket, no language. My mother learned English watching General Hospital. And my father was a mechanical engineer, and he eventually found his way into a job. And my mother walked into a deli, into a grocery store, an American grocery store. And even though they grew up in scarcity in the Soviet Union, she said, American food is so different than Slavic food. And it started the idea of the family's entry into the food industry. She ended up opening 5 Russian delis, Ukrainian, Eastern European delis, and then became an importer and distributor of Eastern European food. And I basically watched my parents, risk everything and live the American dream, be entrepreneurial. And so in 1985, they were in Germany at a food buying show, a trade show, and they stopped into a grocery store, and my dad bought 3 bottles of kefir. And he said, gosh, I miss that. I haven't had it since we left the Soviet Union. And he had this sense of nostalgia. And he couldn't believe, he said, America has everything, but it doesn't have kefir. And my ancestors, for 2,000 years, they kept kefir alive, and they passed it down generation to generation. And it was known to have certain health attributes that today science is catching up to what our ancestors knew. And he just couldn't believe that in the largest marketplace in America, this product did not exist. And my mother looked at him and she said, you're an engineer. Why don't you design a plant, start making the product, and I'll sell it through my distribution system? 6 months later, without a business plan, without a network, without anything, no logo, he launched Lifeway out of the basement of our home in Skokie, Illinois, which is right outside of Chicago. And that was really the start of it. And there was an instant demand for the product from other, there's this exodus of Soviets leaving the Soviet Union. So there was a natural marketplace of people who knew what the product was. They just needed to know it was available in the States. And then at the same time, the health food industry started blowing up. Whole Foods started opening stores. Their mom and pop grocery like co-ops started opening up, and there was this starting to be a conversation by health enthusiasts in general, like just this like push for better food, organic, natural food, and making the connection to how we feel in our bodies and the health benefits and all of that. That was sort of the early pioneering days. And so Lifeway really grew with that first wave of entry of the healthier, better for you brands. And
Because
at the
nobody knew
same,
at the time about gut. They didn't know.
oh no,
And
no.
bacteria was a bad word. Like it was like, don't use the word bacteria in America because they'll freak out.
My
Okay.
dad literally said we never talk about bacteria, even though we have the healthiest, good for you bacteria
Yeah.
in Lifeway product in kefir. Yeah, he said, usually like the big companies were talking about it like yogurt being a healthy diet food. That was kind of the conversation around yogurt. And suddenly we were bringing in this conversation around gut health. Dr. Elie Metchnikoff, he was considered the grandfather of immunity. He did the first rounds of studies around gut health and kefir back in 1908. And he was a rock star in my house. My dad talked about him. He might as well have been Eddie Vedder in my household. And he really started to share this research with Americans. And the more that we talked about it, the more people started to try it and get on board with it. Now, I had no interest in joining the business. I wanted to be a psychologist. I went to grad school for psychology. I worked in the mental health field, and I was really passionate around um, changing the world, as cliche as that sounded. I really wanted to do that. I wanted to help bring about people's like healthier lifestyle change. But I didn't realize that I could do that through a business, through a brand. And I thought it was going to be in the form of therapy on a couch, helping people in that setting. And my dad really begged me to take a business class. He's like, please just take one business class. And I was like, no,
That's
capitalism is evil.
sounds
I'm
like a
gonna,
dad. Yeah.
yes, yes. But he was
Take something
grooming me.
useful. What are you doing?
Exactly. But I grew up in the business. Like I grew up as a little girl. I was putting stickers, price tags on my grocery items and wrapping up chocolate boxes. And, I worked during spring break at his factory and I was listening to the conversations he was having and I was really inspired. And, he really groomed me. He pointed out strong female role models. Christy Hefner in Chicago is a great leader. She was a young woman when she took over Hugh's company, Playboy. And my dad pointed her out to me and said, there was a CNN special on her and he said, oh, come look at, watch this. Look what Christy did for Hugh. And you're going to do that one day for Lifeway. And those seeds were really important for me to have them planted. And it inspired me because well, when I left the field of psychology a year into my grad school, and I said, I want to use Lifeway as a platform to help change people's lives and improve their lives. I was really inspired by hearing the conversations that my dad was having, and it really clicked for the first time for me. And so he's like, come on over. I've been waiting for this. Come on, let's go. And for 5 years, we worked side by side together, and he really taught me the ropes. And
So
it
this
was
is when you're
really amazing.
22. This is when you're
Yeah,
22. You
exactly.
start. Okay. And
Yeah,
but before that, you were kind of working weekends there, and
yeah,
okay.
working weekends for the business whenever there was an opportunity, but just kind of helping out, kind of immigrant daughter, always helping them and just wanting to contribute to the family in their life and standing as an American family. Like it's really, I don't think people really understand how hard it is to immigrate and stand in two cultures, one foot in Russian or your immigrant culture
Yeah.
and one foot in the American culture. But I learned how to switch and how to, use both skills in both communities to kind of to my benefit, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I find myself in my dad's office working with him for 5 years, and unfortunately, suddenly he had a heart attack in 2002, and I was 27 years old. And it was a horrific moment, one of the worst days of my life. And, that night when family comes to comfort the family, friends come to comfort the family, um, a few feet away from me, his best friend says, there's no way a 27-year-old girl can run this company. That's it. Sell all of your stock. It's over. Company is done. And that really pissed me off.
Mhm.
My father taught me how to be a fighter and he had full confidence in me, never swayed. And I got so angry at hearing
Yeah.
this man say this to me. And I knew my dad would be really pissed at him too.
Yeah.
And it really gave me fuel for my fire. And I went into the office that night and I didn't leave. And in the morning, the stock market opened and NASDAQ, it crashed. It was dropping and NASDAQ halted trading.
Mhm.
It was devastating. They gave us a minute to figure out what to do. And even in the following days, we had like a situation where I just started telling the story, but we had like SEC counsel who was trying to make himself interim CEO and then probably flip the company for pennies. And one of my board members reached out before my dad was even buried.
Yep.
There was already a fight for, control, and I had to rise up and be brave. And, it's really frustrating to me that I didn't have the moment to even grieve him or even have a minute to mourn him. I feel like it's been this extended mourning
Yeah.
process for me. But, I knew that I was responding in the way that my dad would have wanted me to. He wanted me to fight and, live out his legacy. And I'm so proud that I had the guts to do it,
Yeah.
because I don't know that everybody would. And I really, this idea, this mantra I kept repeating, failure was not an option. My parents
Mhm.
risked so much. My dad risked so much for us to come. While the company was already, $12 million, it was nowhere near where I knew that it could go, where we
Yep.
are today.
Right.
And, he was counting on me to bring his brand, Lifeway Kefir, to every refrigerator in the United States and around the world. So I'm really proud that 22 years later, I have really realized that dream. And, despite all of the hardships, all of the challenges, all of the naysayers, I'm still here and I'm not going anywhere.
I love it. I love it. If you're going at the 200 million in revenue, that's crazy when you think about it. And just, it's wild what you're dealing with in that moment at 27. You've got the personal side, then the business, and the SEC commissioner was they were external to the company.
Yes,
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah, they
So
don't
they're
really.
external and then basically doing illegal behavior, trying to become the CEO, trying to take
Oh,
over
yeah.
the company.
Oh,
Eh,
well, it was a
yeah.
total conflict of interest. And 3 years after my dad died, his office and home were raided by the FBI for all the shady things he was doing. So, I
The
really,
commissioner was doing, yeah, just to
no,
clarify.
the SEC counsel,
Yeah, the SEC
our
counsel.
lawyer, our
Yeah,
lawyer.
SEC counsel.
Yes,
Yeah, the
yes,
lawyer. Yeah.
yeah. So, it's be careful, because, it's very easy to believe an older person who seems more wise and let them take things and run things, and, that you give up your power. But, I felt in my gut that this was wrong. And, especially when he got on the phone and my family's the largest shareholder. He's telling my mom, trust me, you need a little bit of gray
Yeah.
hair to deal with,
Yeah.
we have Danone as a 22% partner. You need a little gray hair to deal with Danone. When somebody says, trust me, and they're trying to convince you to do something, it's such a sign. It's such a red flag. And, I listen to those moments, the gut feelings,
Hmm.
all the way through. And that's one big lesson I would say: follow your gut, because
Yeah.
it'll never steer you wrong.
No, that's good. That's good. And it's crazy too to have that conviction that you did. Unfortunately, you kind of hear your dad going, this is to have that true north, like this is what my dad, and it's your dad's best friend telling you sell the company, you can't run it. So I mean, unbelievable story. As I said, I'm looking forward to seeing it on Netflix. It'll be insane. So walk me through
This
how
is
do you
just a
take,
sliver of it. You have no
yeah, yeah,
idea.
yeah, no, no,
Oh
we don't,
my gosh. It's a series.
yeah. I love you saying trust your gut. You know, the vagus nerve, there's like connection there. Actually, you should trust your gut. You help people with their health gut. So
Yep.
how do you take it from 14 million to 200 million?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite books is The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And I had read that book alongside with my dad, before I even became CEO. And we had sort of charted out a strategy for the company and for growth. So when I came to work with him, it was a $6 million company. We got it to 12 million in the 5 years that I was with him officially, and then from 12 million to today. And the tipping point, I think, really is the blueprint for what
Hmm.
we would call today's influencer marketing, content
Yep.
creation, bringing in the people who can help raise awareness and connect people to your brand and whatnot. And that was, to even today, I still look at The Tipping Point, and Malcolm Gladwell, and David and Goliath,
Yep.
on how to go up and fight and build a brand. And not only did we build a great brand, we have no debt. We have money in the bank. We have cash. We're profitable. That we've never brought in outside money, no private equity. We've really done it, my team and I, every day, um, based on hard work and our passion, which beats every kind of degree or anything else, is passion. And zip code by zip code, refrigerator door by refrigerator door, leading with authenticity has all been things that have been the game changer when we do go up against multinational brands and companies that have much deeper pockets, billions of dollars,
Yep.
and we're competing with them and really like staying relevant and in a way that they don't even know how to be relevant. They don't know how to innovate. They look to us to do that innovation and create relevancy that's significant in our culture.
No, that's great. And you do not know this, but I became aware of you when I was doing my book. This is 16 years ago, Socialnomics, in MySpace. And so you guys were doing some interesting things with characters on MySpace. So when you
Yes.
mentioned influencer marketing,
Yes.
audience, Julie was one of the pioneers to develop this brand. And those just listening behind her, I mean, it's gorgeous. If you ever want, I use them as an example for if you want to look at in their images on Instagram and online is it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful
Thank you.
product. And so walk us through a little bit just in terms of culture. So you haven't taken outside money. How do you, as a leader, what have you seen? Because a lot of our listeners, they're either starting their company, they're in a company, they're just trying to develop that culture because culture's king. And then how do you develop that? Like, what are some of the tips you can give our audience?
I mean, the biggest thing is that it's been really authentic. We have not kind of followed a typical blueprint and it's really hard to say how do you create it
Yeah.
because it just happened organically. It happened. Um, the other favorite book I have is called The Alchemist,
Yep.
and it's, following your true north.
Mhm.
And that has really been always the guiding force for the business. When we get asked, what's your strategy? I say, get to work. That's the
Yep.
strategy. Go hustle and
Yeah.
sell. And every day has been a hustle. Uh, Getting samples, trial, making sure that people just try it because once they try our product, they fall in love with it. Getting the health benefits out, creating distribution, like building support around it. All of those things are part of our success. But the culture, it's really, in our DNA. It's in my DNA. My father was a uniter. He always had an entourage of people around him, even as a teenager in Kiev. I hear stories today. His friends tell me, "Oh, your father always had 30 people around him. Let's go. Where are we going to go? What are we
Yep.
going to do?" It's always kind of the center of his universe. And that charisma, people just wanted to come and be a part of that
Mhm.
charisma. I think charisma, passion, these are contagious um, attributes that people want to be a part of. Optimism, hopefulness, the can-do attitude.
Mhm.
These are all like the American dream, that it is possible within all of our reaches if we each lean into whatever we're passionate about. I really believe that is the answer to changing the world. Because when you bring your passion to your business, it's just you get so much joy from it. I can't describe it. It's really it's such a privilege to get to have a career that is so aligned with your passion
Yep.
and gets you the opportunity to manifest that.
Yeah,
So
because you're helping people. Walk us through Kefir. Some of our listeners probably haven't tried it. And so walk us through the health benefits and you've got other products, so walk those through as well.
yeah. So kefir basically it's a 2,000-year-old ancient superfood that was passed down really grandmother to grandmother, generation to generation in the Caucasus Mountains, which is like an area near Russia and Ukraine. And in those areas, those people lived to be 100 years of age plus, and they attributed their longevity to their consumption of kefir.
Okay.
They intuitively in their gut felt some of the feelings. They were instantly feeling these health benefits. And I mentioned, my father missed it because he had Crohn's disease and he was feeling the effects of not having these beneficial microflora, these beneficial bacteria in his body, and he was starting to really feel the symptoms of having an unhealthy gut, which is what led him to launch Lifeway. But yeah, in the Soviet Union, it was used medicinally, and they, Ellie Metchnikoff found that it brought like a feeling of a good feeling. They
Yep.
even would call kaif in Turkish is like buzz. It's like
Yep.
they felt a buzz when they consumed it. And there's a sense of like an effervescence. It's basically we take milk and we inoculate it with these bacteria grains, these bacterial cultures. And that chemistry, the fermentation process releases certain chemicals and these bacteria. And now we're learning that the gut is the second brain and it really guides the entire health system of your body. So it controls your immune system, it controls your digestion. Obviously, we always knew that. It controls, now we know, mental health. It does, you mentioned the vagus nerve. Our gut and our brain are talking to each other all the time and communicating, and it can help reduce, we now know, stress, depression, and anxiety. So that's very exciting because even though I left the field of mental health, I find myself back in the field of mental health. And I'm so excited because I brought my two passions of food and mental health together. And we know now that skin health is another part of it. You know, there's this big movement of young people and their mothers, and everyone is concerned with skin health.
Yep.
Well, kefir, we now know, also reduces acne, brings about a glow. As a matter of fact, Margot Robbie on the movie Barbie, when they were filming it, they hired a nutritionist on set. And that nutritionist recommended all the actors drink kefir for their glowing
Oh, that's
skin. Yes,
amazing.
I know.
Yeah,
We're in Barbie.
that's
Yeah,
good.
so
Did you
it's
go to the set at all or
I
no?
did not. No, I
Okay.
read about it way after, after the release, the nutritionist was being interviewed for press and she mentioned it. I had no idea they did this. So it blew
Interesting.
up. It really went viral. It was all over the news. So it was really exciting to be a part of that. But yeah,
Did
so
you
we're
see the
learning.
sales spike a little bit?
We do.
Okay.
We've seen our sales spike for the last 5 years. We've just in the last 5 years, we have seen 22 quarters of consistent growth. The last 5 quarters were record growth. And we've really seen the pendulum swing from like plant-based anti-dairy movement,
Yeah.
which was very challenging, another very hard time for us to go through. But we saw that pendulum swing back during COVID, and people went back to what they know, what they love, where
Yeah.
there's science.
Yep.
We've learned a lot about the plant-based movement and how unhealthy it actually is for so many people.
How did
And
you
so,
make
yeah,
it through the non-dairy movement? What was it, just like team focus on controlling what we can control? This is a
yep,
macro thing. We're gonna
yep.
have a roller coaster ride of stuff we can't control. Like walk us through, because everyone always thinks, oh, they're just on the upward trajectory. But no, things hit where you're like, whoa, what's going on?
What happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
it came out of the blue because it was going, in
Yeah.
this right trajectory. Everything was so
Yeah.
successful. We were, blowing up, and then suddenly plant-based movement interrupts it. And I think with a false agenda, with influencers and whatnot, sharing a lot of misconception, a lot of falseness around dairy, especially fermented dairy is different than just regular dairy. One of those misconceptions is that dairy causes inflammation. Fermented dairy reduces inflammation. So
Reduces
it's
it. Yeah.
actually something you should be adding into your body. It is absolutely healing to the body. So, getting the right facts out, like you mentioned, controlling what we could control. We did launch an alternative product, a plant-based product, but we also found that people really wanted our dairy products. Like the
Yeah.
people who are Lifeway consumers they only want a dairy,
Yeah.
fermented dairy. And the science is really with the cultured dairy. Fermented dairy is where science is, and where the health benefits really are. So we were really happy to see the pendulum come all the way back to high premium,
Mhm.
organic, grass-fed dairy, and just more facts. That's really just consistently staying on message around gut health, how, dairy, not all probiotics are the same, that, where you get your probiotic is as important, and, as even just getting it, because so many of the pills don't really do anything. Sharing all the great
Yep.
science, there is, I would say, thanks to COVID, there was a race to study immune systems and how to reduce sickness. And there was more research in the last 3, 4 years, 5 years around gut health, microbiome,
Yep.
kefir, immunity than we've seen in the whole 100 years.
Yep.
And then I think it's exponentially getting faster, better. AI is improving the research. Like there's so many connections that we're now learning about the microbiome. We haven't even scratched the
Yeah.
surface on knowing about the microbiome and friendly bacteria. As a matter of fact, just this week, a new study shows that fermented dairy like kefir can help reduce colon cancer. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
New
And so
studies.
you said
Yeah.
AI is hyper accelerating it because they can hyper accelerate the learning in the medical field that now they know
Yeah.
it helps reduce colon cancer. That
Yeah.
the AI
And
just speeds up the testing and learning or just kind of,
well, I don't know on the back end, like how
yeah,
the researchers are using it, but they're able to connect all this research from around the world that they would never be able to go and find, in a way that they just wouldn't, were never able to tell the
to
story.
share. Okay, that makes sense.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure they're using AI in all of their science and connecting different researchers around the world to, oh, we learned
Yeah.
this, like put it together. What does it say? So, that's a whole, I'll leave that conversation to the researchers. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's just exponentially more and more information is being put into the public domain, and
Hmm.
they're building on top of it every day. So it's exciting to see. We do know that we're at a tipping point in our food systems around that connection of how we eat and the diseases that we are creating or not creating. Food can
Yeah.
be the best medicine or the fastest form of disease. And connecting just overall lifestyle and making sure that, when we talk about helping people make positive food choices, it's not just, hey, drink Lifeway
Yeah.
Kefir. It's also, hey, meditate for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, do a yoga class, go for a walk. Health is all encompassing. It's what you eat, what choices you make, how you
Yeah.
rest, how you talk to yourself, how you move your body, the community that you're in, all of those things. And we know that when you make decisions and good choices in one area, you're more likely to make good choices in other areas. So we try to bring that to our community and democratize some of those, what seems sometimes out of reach to so many people.
No, it's so good. And you're so passionate about what you do. You can see it come through because you're
Thank
helping
you.
people all the time. I love it. Now, you can see that. That's probably the best part of your role. But then what's the biggest challenge as a leader of a global company, especially a leader in the field? What are some of the biggest challenges and how have you become better at wrestling with those? Because sometimes like it's lonely at the top or it's difficult at the top. So what are some of the challenges and how have you been able to wrestle with those?
Yeah, I think, kind of having this now wisdom and maturity to let some of the challenges kind of come. And like you said, you could only control what you can control. And luckily, we have had a lot of things that are within our control, and we've been able to respond by following our gut.
Yep.
That's been helpful. Looking at certain trends has been very helpful, like, the high protein, like I said, microbiome, probiotics, making sure that some of these benefits really rise to the top, making sure that our ambassadors, our influencers are all, sharing these messages, and just awareness is such a
Mhm.
big component of it. So, I think, at this point, most of the challenges are, I can let them roll off.
Yep.
I know who I am. I know what skill set I have. I know my team. We have a really great, strong team that has been together for decades. And I think trusting the team and knowing that we've already been through so many things
Yep.
that whatever next challenge comes about, I look at a challenge as an opportunity. Never waste a good challenge.
Yeah.
There's always something to be gained from it. And I also see that, usually something better will come down the line, that it's always, for you. I look at those moments as this is not happening to me but for me, and what can I learn from this? What is the pivot from here? How are we going to get stronger from this? And that's how I've looked at every challenge. So it's hard. I have a self-care routine for myself that's really
Mhm.
important, and I know that when I don't um like use my self-care routine, that's when
Yeah.
I get into trouble. And I've definitely had my own, really dark moments in leadership, and it is lonely at the top.
Yeah.
And have a good therapist, have a
Yep.
lot of good lawyers,
Yep.
have good friends that you can
Yeah.
kick back with, that don't care if you had a bad, sales week or whatever.
Yep.
Those are all really important. And gratitude, of course, always looking at well, look at all the blessings. Look at what
Yeah.
we've done. Look at what we've accomplished. Like, yes, good days come, bad days come, but we have overall, I look at the big picture and don't let those challenges take us down or me down.
And if you don't mind sharing what is or some of the self-care, because I think it'd be very helpful for our listeners, because all of us wrestle with it. I mean, especially you've got a lot going on. We'll get into a little bit of outside as well, like the mental health you're passing around there. Obviously, you're a mom. I noticed, like when I became a dad, all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, I have a lot less time. What was I doing?
Right?
Like, what was I doing with my time before I had
Right?
my kids? I should have been taking advantage. I should have written 30 books. It's
Yeah.
so yeah. Walk us through a little bit self-care or just like super high level, just when you start to get that gravitational pull to more of the dark side, like what's the self-care? How do you get back to center?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, number one, every day, non-negotiable is being able to work out, getting your
Yeah.
body to sweat somehow. For me, I love like a bike, like a spin class.
Yeah. Do you do it
I
in the
run,
morning? Is it a certain
yeah.
time? Okay.
For me, it's a preference to do it in the morning. Otherwise, it slips off. And
Yeah.
I don't like to get too revved up late at night before
Yeah.
bed.
And what time do
So
you get up usually, would you say, during the week?
I'm a 5 a.m. wake up
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah, it's interesting
Um,
because the book behind me, The Focus Project, when we dug into it, it is shocking the list of successful CEOs that get up 5:30. Some are 4, crazy enough, but
Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes I am a 4 a.m. too.
yeah.
It just depends on how stressed I am.
Okay.
But yeah, usually, there's just not enough hours in the day. I
Yeah.
mean, I try to delegate and that's an
Yeah.
ongoing battle. But if you want a busy life, you have a busy life.
Yeah.
And you ask a busy person. So there's so many asks of me all the time. I never want to let anybody down. I'm very ambitious. I want to say yes to everyone and help everyone.
Hmm.
Which is not possible. You have to say
Yeah.
no. But
Do you
to
have a
your point,
system? Do you have a system for saying no to help you?
I mean, my calendar. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's sorry, I already have something in the calendar. I can't do it, which is true a lot of times. If it rises to the top, it has to be something that I really care about. Luckily, people present ideas to me that are usually very much aligned with things I care about. But I think to your point, you talked about becoming a parent and how, the battle for time becomes much more challenging. I think it's such a gift because you instantly, the what's important rises
Yeah.
to the top and
Yep.
everything else falls apart, if it
Yeah.
falls away. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of becoming a parent. You become very protective of your time, how you use it, what you say yes to,
Yep.
where you go, all of it becomes highly, highly important. And I have just continued to crystallize that over my life. That's key. Other things, yeah. So I wake up early. I love to get like the first round of emails out, check what's coming in, read the news, have a cup of coffee. Get that first morning burst of workout. Check the stock market on the East Coast. Check global issues around the world, whatever we have going on. And then I get my work. I get my kids off to school, which is I love any minute of time I can get with them.
Yep.
I have a junior and a freshman now. So I know that the time with them is now limited and I count every minute that I get to
Yep.
see them and then be in
Yeah.
their presence.
I'm with you.
So
It's like, oh, they're talking to me. Great. That's good.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Every stage is so amazing. And that's really another blessing in a way that's self-care because at the end of the day, they are my light. They
Number
are
one. Yeah.
just
Just like you
not,
said, it's crystal clear. This is the priority. And it makes you better at everything, I
it
think. Yeah.
does. It does. Yeah. And their stuff is first on my calendar, their games,
Yeah.
their events, everything else I can say no to. Sorry,
Yeah.
I can't do that. I got a very
Yeah.
important kid thing,
What are they
So
playing? What are they doing? What the
Uh,
games?
they used to do like volleyball and tennis, but now they're launching a company. Actually, they're launching a brand in the beauty space, a hair care line called Bird Beauty, which is going to go and
Bird
save
Beauty.
lives. Bird
Okay.
Beauty, yeah, you can have
Right.
them on your show.
There we
Um, they're
go.
they're going to be creating tools in the beauty care space for screening for teen dating violence and domestic violence. So they have a big social impact brand that they're pushing out. And my older one's really into film. She's already producing Oscar contending film projects. So it's
Oh,
really exciting. Yeah.
yeah.
She's in the film
It,
space. So,
Going after
listen,
mom because you won, I believe, an Emmy And were
Yes.
Oscar not? Did you win an Oscar or also Oscar nominated?
Nominated,
Yeah.
Emmy winning. Yeah, I was one of the producers on The Hunting Ground, which
The
is a
Hunting Ground. Yep.
documentary. Yeah, documentary that highlighted sexual assault on college campus and the cover up of those. And Lady Gaga and Diane Warren wrote a song for the movie called Till It Happens to You. The song won the Emmy, and we were Oscar nominated. And I had the really remarkable privilege of sharing the stage with Lady Gaga and 50 other survivors in
Unbelievable.
2016. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really incredible. Really the domino effect for the Me Too movement
Yeah.
and another, thing. I'm so proud that I was able to contribute to this conversation. I had been a leader in the space for over 35 years. I helped write the first teen dating violence
Yeah.
curriculum in Chicago when I was a teen, when I was
Yeah.
15 years old, and then taught it. So yeah, I mean, the apple does not fall
Yeah.
far from the tree. These kids are watching and
Yeah.
learning. And I love that, there's a new generation of young people that, can be inspired by our story, by my story, whatever.
Yeah.
And I hope that, people who read who hear this story, that the biggest thing is, like, I have gone through so much, I have overcome so much, and the fact that I've come out on the other side like a phoenix rising out of the
Yeah.
ashes, is really inspiring to me. And I have had such dark days that it's, to me, I can't believe I'm here. And it has been by the grace of God. My story has brought me to my knees on so many occasions. And it has also made my faith so much stronger in a
Mhm.
higher power. And that faith has kept me here. So I'm
Yeah.
really grateful.
And when we talk about your passion outside of Lifeway with mental health and survivors, what can our listeners do? Is there anything, an ask that they can help? Kind of any of the movements that you're involved in?
Well, I mean, certainly if you just like follow, me and Lifeway, we are
Yeah.
always sharing some of the things that we're doing. But I would say, first of all, just follow your own gut.
Yeah.
Everyone has something that they're passionate about. Just being a good person, leading with kindness or self-awareness,
Yeah.
or, love.
Yeah.
There's just so much nastiness in the world. um I will forever just be an optimist and a hopeful that the next day will be brighter, and that the future is always going to be better, that it's worth it to use your pain for purpose.
I like that. Yeah. Use your pain for purpose. That's good.
Yeah, I did not want to waste my pain. I
Yeah.
wanted to use my pain for purpose. And I think signing petitions, watching films, creating awareness around issues that you're passionate about, sharing a story with your loved ones. I think, when you are vulnerable and you crack open, that gives people the space to crack open as
Hmm.
well. And I think, yeah, I mean, a big part of it is having the guts to be authentic. So many of us walk around with a mask on most of the day, and then we wonder why we have mental health
Yeah.
issues. But, I think, yeah, just leading with authenticity, or in your life in general. But yeah, just being a kind person, smiling
Yeah.
when you see a person on the street, saying, have a great day, giving someone a high five, just letting them know that they've got this,
Yeah.
is so can really, really has been a game changer for me. It sounds so simple, but it's actually true.
Yeah.
Being an open-minded to spending time with somebody going through a hard time. Um, yeah, I guess those would be some of the things that have helped me.
And then you mentioned the team. It's amazing they've stayed on board for
Yeah.
long periods of time. Is there a common thread you see with the best of the best on the team? Like, is there a common characteristic that they have, the team members have, like the top performers?
I think the top are optimistic,
Yep.
hopeful, passionate, great work ethic, have like a can-do attitude.
Yep.
Will tell me 5 reasons why they think something could be successful versus 5 reasons why it won't work. I find so many teams always look to say why things can't be done. No, this won't work because of this. This won't work because of that. And everyone's afraid to take a risk, but like it's always good to just try. Like
Yeah.
just try. Let's see what happens. So I think those are common threads. But yeah, you want people that can get into the foxhole with you and stay in that uncomfortable area with you, that you can really get into it with. And that, if there is a bad day or somebody's cranky or responds in a negative way, that like, we've been together for a long time, for many decades. Like everyone knows how to handle each other at this point. So it's nice. And yeah, I think everyone tells me that they love working for a company that's so authentic and
Yeah.
passionate, and that, every person, it is like a family, which can sometimes be positive or negative, but
Yeah.
there is this sense that we are all together. We brought this eclectic group of people that have this singular mission of bringing good health to people. During COVID, when kind of the world was falling apart and my team we were essential workers. We were in there in the factory. I was in the factory with the team.
Yeah.
And, this idea, I said, right now, if you've ever dreamed of becoming a hero, this is your chance to be a hero right now, because you are on the front line and we are producing healthy food that's an essential food
Hmm.
for people right now, for first responders.
Yep.
And it's a national security issue. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in shock when I walked into grocery stores in my community and saw empty shelves. It
Empty. Yeah.
reminded me of like the Soviet Union, of what my parents told me that they experienced.
Yeah.
And it was traumatic. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget that. That really lived with me.
Yeah.
And I
I
think,
remember real quick on that's funny is I went into our store here, HEB, which you're probably familiar with, but
yes.
I was in there and the only thing left was grandma's hummus. And I'm like to myself, I feel bad for saying this because it's
You
a
go.
brand, but I was like, how bad is this stuff? Like
Oh, no.
everything else is gone and this thing's fully stocked. It was very
Wow.
heavy garlic. I think that's why people avoid it. Uh, but did you see a shift to more online orders during that time? And has that
Absolutely.
stayed
Yeah,
through?
we
Okay. Were you guys
absolutely.
ready
And
for that, or is it like
yeah,
overnight shifting gears?
we already were planning on a
Okay.
big digital spend anyways. That was part of our strategy. I
Yeah.
think, we went into COVID with a 2.0 plan, like because we were dealing with the anti-dairy challenge. So we had
Yeah.
a strategy. I think COVID just expedited our plan by 5 years,
Okay.
but we already had a really good digital plan. I think we
Yep.
have a stellar digital team, a top notch. And I think that has also really helped us because, yeah, everyone switched to digital. And I think it's hard to get people to switch back. Like I
Yeah,
like
because
going
I'm
into
sure
the
there's a lot of
grocery store.
subscription based, right? They get
Yeah.
it just
They just,
dropped off.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
people, once you drink Lifeway Kefir,
Yeah.
you realize you feel better and you
Yeah.
start to see, I need this to feel better. Like you crave it because it is high protein. It is,
Yep.
feels like you get satiation from it. So yeah, I mean, we went in with digital. We also moved all of our in-person events. We had all these like yoga activations and different ways that we bring our brand to life in the community. We switched all of those activations to digital. So we took our yoga classes to Instagram Live,
Yep.
mental health talks with therapists. I even joined in some. We brought in top celebrity chefs to teach people how to cook with it at home. I also wrote a cookbook, which we shared different recipes from it. And,
Yeah. What's the name of the cookbook?
the cookbook is called The Kefir Cookbook by me, Julie
Nice.
Smolyansky. And you really, shared a lot of the entrepreneurial stories with how my parents, came and there's my parents there, but how they came and became, entrepreneurs, and stories from our life and my life. There's fun things that you wouldn't expect, like a recipe inspired by Pearl Jam, because I love Pearl
Nice.
Jam. I've seen over 100 shows. I know Eddie Vedder, and there's
Now, how'd you become Know Eddie? Just through
just showing
connections?
up a lot. Yeah,
There you go. I
connections.
like it.
We share a bodyguard. So
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
he helped me. But yeah, it was really just a fun way to share how versatile Kefir is. And it was really fun to write. And I
Yeah.
call it like the pre-food to another book one of these days. I'll take after you and write a couple.
No, I love it. That's great. That's fantastic that you have it.
Yeah.
We're going to switch gears real quick. Thank you so much for the time. We're going to go into lightning round here. And so it's the fun, just whatever pops in your mind, first and foremost. What flavor of kefir do you most often find yourself drinking?
Plain. It's my
Plain.
favorite. I'm a
Plain.
purist. Purist.
Plain. And favorite recipe from the book?
Ooh,
Or
well,
when,
that's so
yeah,
hard. Ah, God,
not favorite, but
that's
maybe
such
one
a,
that pops in your head because favorites are
oh,
hard.
okay, okay. Probably. Gosh, you're killing me. I really like our the breakfast bowl. It's called Here Comes the Sun breakfast bowl, and I just love it. It's such a delicious bowl, and it talks about how my dad really loved I share the story about the Beatles album and how my dad wanted to leave the Soviet Union because he couldn't listen to the Beatles, and that was inspiring. And I love this idea of like, here comes the sun. Like you leave
Right.
this oppressive country, you come to America and you launch this, company, and it becomes a huge success. And, this is your time, our time in the
Yeah.
sun now. This is our time, your time, all of our time in the sun.
Here
So I
comes
love
the
that.
sun. I love it. And Jake, you're going to have to post produce. You got to mix that in a little bit, just a quick bite so we're not violating copyrights. But we'll put that song in here. That'll be good. No, for us, we'll put a little bit of little
Yes, yes,
bars in there.
yes.
Um, what's your favorite? You mentioned The Alchemist. So that's good. And Malcolm Gladwell's A Tipping Point. That's fantastic. What's the best advice you've ever been given and by whom? Or some of the best
Well,
advice you remember? Yeah.
yeah, follow your gut, of course. My
Yeah.
dad always said, trust your gut.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't go to Harvard, but your gut is very strong. You have a
Yeah.
good gut. So that one, and the other one is maybe this is a little bit longer. It's not a lightning round, but the third generation of radio flyer, Robert Passon, who you should
Okay.
absolutely have on your show if you haven't. Robert's
Nice.
amazing. Robert told me early on, write everything you do down in a day. Like write it all down, and your goal is to take as many things off and delegate it to other people. And you should do only what you are uniquely qualified to do in your organization. Focus on that. That has been game changing advice that
Yeah.
I follow to this day, because when I first became CEO, I was doing things like buying, negotiating for toilet paper for the company, like in the factory. Like, why was I doing that? I just, you know, somebody said other people can do that, grow the
Right.
business.
Yeah.
So, those, but, in the beginning, it's just like, I don't know how to make decisions. Like, and you just start to make these decisions. And, anyways, delegating it and doing what you uniquely can do.
I love it. I love it. It's so good. Is there a favorite app that anyone should know about? Favorite app?
Oh gosh, well, I love my ClassPass app. I find a lot of fitness classes
Yeah.
that way. I travel a lot, and that's one way that I always try to get like a class in or something. I love my Heart app because, just checking steps like all of us. I'm obsessed with getting my steps. I love Instagram. I'm addicted like everyone else. It's a great way to
Yeah.
communicate and build that authenticity and whatnot, and be in with my community. Those are kind of the big ones I think that I spend a lot of time on.
I love it. No,
Audible,
it's so
I
good.
like a good Audible book. When I go for getting my steps, I'll throw in a book on tape. I love reading. That's another self-care. If I don't read, I am such a cranky person. I need to read, 20, 30, 40 minutes as much as I can, but at least it's the one way that I could really shut my mind off is
Hmm.
by reading a book and like turning the
Yeah.
page. I like to hold the book and turn the page.
I like it. Yeah, 90% of people still prefer to read on paper. It's 25% faster to read on paper, but then you also mix in Audible if you're at
Yeah.
the gym, like you mentioned. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What about, and then when you think about, okay, so you're reading, got it. We'll just keep going. So what about when the
I'm
next
bad
12,
at lightning rod. I'm failing it.
that's good. I'm getting engrossed too. So next 12 months, what do you want to do more of? Next 12 months could be work, business, both. Like next 12 months, what do you like? Man, it'd be a fail. That's sometimes the easier way to think about it. It'd be a fail if I didn't do this.
Do a lot more writing. I love writing. It's the one thing that I
Yeah,
like, feel like there's never enough time to do, and I love it. So more writing, more reading, more public speaking, more podcasts, more talking to
yeah,
people like yourself, more of all of that. Those are kind of probably the big things. I'd love to try to get some rest.
yeah.
I never seem to, that does fall off the
What time
radar
do you usually go to
sometimes.
bed?
Oy.
It's probably not, that's the variable. You get up probably normally at 5, but then I've a lot of people that have a variable time on when they go to bed.
It's tough because I am one of those people who like burn it on both ends, and
Yeah.
I have like revenge that I never have enough time to do all the things. So I stay up way late. I mean, I usually probably get to bed by 12.
Mm.
So I'm not a good sleeper. I'd like to change that, but it's hard. Just I have so many things I want to do.
Yeah.
Um, I have to work on that, but
No.
eh.
One thing, you probably know this trick, it helps a lot of people, it helped me, is I write down the number one thing I have to do the next morning, and then it teaches your brain that that's taken care of. So instead of me thinking about it, so just it's worth a try if you haven't done it.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try it.
And then I'll worth it. What about when you read? Is it fiction, nonfiction, everything?
I love
Historical fiction?
fiction.
Yeah.
I love fiction. I love a good
Yeah.
historical fiction. I love travel fiction.
Yeah.
I love like if I have a trip coming up, I will like get into it and read all the like fiction about that. I love you know, uh I love memoirs that are read by the author, like with a famous voice, and I like that on an Audible. So
Yeah.
I try to save my memoirs with. I just finished Share, which was amazing.
Yeah, I gotta check that out
Um,
because I heard she
it's so
crushed
good.
it this week. I
Yeah,
was thinking,
yeah.
yeah,
She reads the first few pages in the Audible. So I did like a hybrid of Share
yeah.
on Audible and then yeah. So I love that, and I
Have you listened to Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey?
yes,
Oh, it's
so
good.
good. Yes. So his voice, I mean, yeah, when
Yeah,
you get one of those voices, it's like they're telling you a story. It's so
yeah.
great. One of these days when I retire, I would like to own a little bookshop on Main Street somewhere and just curate the books and the selections, and I'll have little coffees and of course kefirs and
Yeah.
so yeah, that is such a passion for me. I love talking about books. Like I am so into the book world. It's really a gift.
I love it. I love it. Readers are leaders and leaders are readers. So that's
That's right.
fantastic.
That's right.
As we part ways here, what is there any question I should have asked or anything, any parting words for the listeners here?
So yeah, farmer's cheese is really exciting. It's been a product that we've been making from day one. It's a legacy product, and in Russian it's called tvorog, and it's kind of like a soft, unripened cottage cheese ricotta. It's sort of in between that, and it's more pressed out, so it's not like what's exciting about this is that about 2 years ago, cottage cheese went viral on TikTok for a recipe. So people started blending cottage cheese. I think because they didn't like the moisture in it. But
Mm,
farmer's cheese is already it's already kind of like the moisture has been taken out of it. So it's really easy to just incorporate it into your recipes without having to get your blender out and, making a mess. So I think it's like a recipe hack. And it's so good for like blintzes or just Bethany Frankel just posted it on her Instagram and TikTok, and she like put it on a crisp with avocado and everything but the bagel and hot
oh,
honey and tomato
okay.
and basil. I mean, so good for spreading like on a bagel. You can make it sweet or savory.
Does it
And
kind of
people
replace cream cheese? Like it's a healthy version, like a replacement?
Yeah, I would use it like a replacement is cream cheese or replacement for cottage cheese
Okay.
or like cooking in Italian dishes. I make
Yeah.
like lasagna with it, stuffed shells,
Nice.
all of that. But you could also put just jam on it and eat it straight. But people love it because it's high protein.
Yeah. I
It's
saw some
it's
pancake recipe on your site, so it looked good.
so
Really
good.
good.
Yeah, pancakes,
Yeah. So it kind of replaced that
crumble it.
ricotta, but healthier protein. I got it.
Yeah. And the cool thing is that like I said, it's been a legacy product. We've made it for 38 years, but we've mostly kept it in the Russian ethnic delis. Suddenly it's blowing up. It took 38 years to
Yeah.
just sit and, sit. It was stable in the ethnic markets, specialty markets, and boom, out of the blue, just because of a viral TikTok trend, it blew up. And now
Yeah.
we have celebrities talking about it. And I mean, my father would be so excited to see what's happening with it because he always knew that it would blow up one of these days. It
That's
only took
awesome.
38 years. So, patience is a virtue.
Patience is a virtue. I love it. No, it's so good. And our audience, I enjoyed this so much. So hopefully, and then just so you know, Julie's going to be talking with the legendary Katie Couric here March 7th at South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas. So we're looking forward to that as well. But I can't thank you enough for joining us. I know how busy you are, flying around the world, and just it's amazing to see the brand that you've built
Thank you.
over time and going through the ups and downs. So most people think, oh, it's just always been easy, but just sharing us with your story, just how you have to control what you control and go through it. So can't thank you enough, Julie. And everyone's going to be cheering for your continued success. I know that.
Thank you so much. So nice to talk to you and share these stories. I really appreciate it. And I love your guts.